Hello, Ashley Dyer here. I'm Margaret Murphy, the writer.
And I'm Helen Pepper, the forensic and police procedure consultant.
So Helen is going to instruct me on how to do swabbing today.
So what we're going to do, we've got some blood here at our crime scene. Have to admit that this morning it's not actual real blood, it's fake blood, because we're only practicing and Margaret hasn't really been instructed yet on all the health and safety procedures that we would need to put in place if we were going to use real blood. So maybe we're going to progress to that later.
Yeah. I was going to say we haven't got gloves for a start.
No, and we're not wearing a full forensic suit and we haven't got face masks on because you'd not be able to hear what we said if we did.
Okay.
So
sounds fair enough.
So we're just playing with the fake blood this morning. So what we're going to need, we're going to need some medicinal swabs that have been specially treated so that they are forensically sterile, so that there's no DNA on there. And we're also going to need some water. And the water that we use is the same stuff that your doctor would use when giving you an injection. So we've got sterile water too.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really straightforward process. Snap the swab open. You see, this is a different swab to the ones that we used for taking a DNA sample from you.
Yeah, it looks more like a cotton wool bud.
It is.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. When we're doing the swabbing, we shouldn't really be talking.
Because of DNA.
Because of DNA. If you breathe, if you talk onto the swab, you can contaminate it with your own DNA, which is why CSIs wear the face masks when they're swabbing.
Yeah.
But seeing as how we're only playing today, I think we're fine to chat. So if I break the water open, we just need a tiny little bit of water on the swab, just moisten it a little bit, because quite often at the crime scene, there's not actually very, very much blood there and you don't want to dilute it. You want to keep it as concentrated as you can. So if your swab's absolutely dripping wet, if you dip it in the water, you're going to dilute your blood too much. So really, really simple, straightforward. Gently, gently rubbing and turning. If there's very little blood, you try and concentrate it onto a very small area of the swab, so that you're going to have the majority of it easily accessible all in one place. If there's a lot of blood, you might want to keep working for a little time. You need the water to moisten the blood stain so that you can pick it up. And you just keep turning the swab till you've got a really good sample. Plenty to analyse. And then it goes back into the tube and you can package that up into a nice tamper evident bag and it gets stored in the freezer so that it doesn't deteriorate, and we can transport it frozen as well to the lab. So would you like to have a go?
I would, and I have a question. This could actually be a mixture of blood, couldn't it?
It could. It could be from more than one person. Quite often you'll get discrete drops of blood or discrete smears like we've got here. You would sample each drop individually.
Yeah, but that could be quite a job.
Oh yes, it can take a while, so that you're less likely to get a mixture. But you still can have a mixture there, and it can be really difficult to interpret, especially if you have more than two people in the mixture, which can happen.
Yeah. Is it more complicated if it's two females mixed rather than a male and a female?
Really doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It's more about the actual amino acids that are making up the DNA and separating those out into individual profiles. It's sort of like if you get two people's DNA mixed, it's a bit like mixing paint. If you had white paint and red paint and mix them together, you wouldn't get red and white striped paint, would you? You'd get pink.
Yeah.
and then you've got to try and separate them back out again, and it can be really, really difficult.
I imagine it is.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed then when I was trying this is I thought, well, there's one thing that I could possibly get wrong, and that is accidentally touching the top as you pick it up, so you'd have to be very careful.
But you would have
You'd have
two
your
pairs
gloves
of
on.
sterile gloves
Right,
on
okay.
when you're doing DNA swabbing. We're not doing that at the moment because once you get the gloves on, you become clumsier and it's more difficult. So it's easier for you to start like this.
Yeah.
And then once you've got the hang of it and you know what you're doing, then we can start adding in the protective equipment that you would wear, and also we can then start to use real blood.
Yeah.
Because it does swab differently.
Mm.
So, but you know, you need to
It gives
walk
you an
before
idea.
you can run.
Yeah, absolutely. One final question, if I can remember it, is when you are doing this, would you use the same bottle for several different samples, or would you have to open a new bottle each time?
You can use the same bottle for one scene. Once you've finished at the scene, you discard it if it's not empty. But if you think what you're doing, you've got a sterile swab, you're touching the water to the sterile swab, and then you're going into your sample.
Mm-hmm.
So the moistening of the swab's happening before you've got any contact with any DNA.
Yeah.
So once you've actually touched the swab against the sample, then you couldn't go back for more water.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could, but then you'd have to discard that bottle.
Yeah.
But whilst ever you're not actually introducing DNA to the water, you find you keep going.
Right.
You've just got to think what you're doing and think it through and think, could there be an issue here? If there is, I'll just toss it and get a new one.
Yeah. Brilliant.